Question 1. Governance review demonstrates that Aichi Bunkyo University's admissions committee is facing pressure to admit a highly publicized applicant whose academic record, while meeting minimum requirements, is not as strong as other candidates. The applicant's family has significant influence and has implied that their support could benefit the university. The committee is considering several courses of action. Which approach best upholds the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair admissions practices under Japanese educational regulations? Option A. Grant the applicant preferential admission due to their family's influence and potential to provide future benefits to the university, thereby securing a valuable relationship. Option B. Conduct a thorough, objective review of the applicant's qualifications against all established admission criteria, ensuring that the decision is based solely on merit and adherence to university policy, regardless of external influence or potential benefits. Option C. Reject the applicant outright without a detailed review, citing concerns about the potential for undue influence and the need to maintain the integrity of the admissions process. Option D. Create a special admission category for this applicant, acknowledging their unique circumstances and the potential benefits they bring, thereby bypassing standard evaluation procedures. Correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough, objective review of the applicant's qualifications against all established admission criteria, ensuring that the decision is based solely on merit and adherence to university policy, regardless of external influence or potential benefits. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining academic integrity and responding to external pressures that could compromise institutional standards. The university must navigate the delicate balance of upholding its admission policies while also considering the potential impact of a high-profile applicant's circumstances. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any decision made is fair, consistent with the university's stated values, and compliant with the specific regulations governing university admissions in Japan, as stipulated by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, MEXT, and Aichi Bunkyo University's own internal guidelines. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial assessment of the applicant's qualifications against the established admission criteria, without undue influence from external factors. This aligns with the principles of meritocracy and equal opportunity fundamental to academic institutions. Specifically, the university must adhere to its published admission standards, which are designed to ensure that all admitted students possess the necessary academic foundation to succeed. Any deviation from these standards, even for a seemingly compelling reason, could set a precedent that undermines the fairness of the admissions process and potentially violate MEXT guidelines on transparent and equitable admissions. An incorrect approach would be to grant preferential treatment based solely on the applicant's family's public profile or perceived societal benefit. This fails to uphold the principle of equal treatment for all applicants and could be seen as a violation of the university's commitment to objective evaluation. Furthermore, allowing external influence to dictate admission decisions could contravene MEXT directives on maintaining the integrity of the higher education system and ensuring that admissions are based on academic merit. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the applicant without a comprehensive review of their application materials. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and could lead to the exclusion of a qualified candidate, potentially resulting in reputational damage and accusations of bias. The university has a responsibility to evaluate all applications fairly and thoroughly, in accordance with its own policies and relevant national regulations. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve 1. Understanding and strictly adhering to the university's published admission criteria and procedures. 2. Ensuring that all applications are evaluated objectively and impartially, free from external pressure or bias. 3. Consulting relevant university committees or governing bodies to ensure decisions are consistent with institutional policy and ethical standards. 4. Documenting the decision-making process thoroughly, including the rationale for the final outcome, to ensure transparency and accountability. 5. Being prepared to justify the decision based on established criteria and regulations, should it be challenged. Question 2. The audit findings indicate several minor discrepancies in the documentation and verification processes for a small number of applicants to the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance examination. These discrepancies include instances of incomplete supporting documents that were not flagged, and minor inconsistencies in the verification of applicant information that did not lead to outright rejection. Individually, these issues do not meet the threshold for financial or operational materiality. However, the auditor is concerned about the potential for these minor deviations to collectively undermine the fairness and integrity of the admissions process. What is the most appropriate course of action for the auditor? Option A. Immediately report all identified discrepancies to the university's senior management as a significant breach of protocol, without further internal analysis. Option B. Focus solely on the quantitative materiality of individual discrepancies and conclude that no further action is required as they do not meet the established materiality threshold. Option C. Dismiss the findings as inconsequential due to their minor nature and the low number of occurrences, assuming they are isolated incidents. Option D. Conduct a deeper review of the identified discrepancies, cross-reference them with university admission policies and procedures, and assess whether these deviations, even if minor in isolation, indicate a pattern of non-compliance or a risk to the fairness and validity of the entrance examination. Correct answer is D. Conduct a deeper review of the identified discrepancies, cross-reference them with university admission policies and procedures, and assess whether these deviations, even if minor in isolation, indicate a pattern of non-compliance or a risk to the fairness and validity of the entrance examination. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires the auditor to balance the need for thoroughness with the practical constraints of an audit, while adhering strictly to the principles and guidelines relevant to the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exams regulatory framework. The auditor must exercise professional skepticism and judgment to determine if the identified discrepancies, while not individually material, collectively suggest a potential systemic issue or a deviation from established university policies that could impact the integrity of the admissions process. The core challenge lies in assessing the qualitative impact of these findings beyond mere quantitative materiality. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the identified discrepancies, cross-referencing them with university admission policies and procedures, and assessing whether these deviations, even if minor in isolation, indicate a pattern of noncompliance or a risk to the fairness and validity of the entrance examination. This approach is justified by the overarching ethical duty of an auditor to report findings that, while not meeting a strict materiality threshold, could nonetheless compromise the objectives of the audit or the reputation of the institution. Adherence to the principles of professional skepticism and due care, as implicitly expected within the context of university entrance exams, mandates this thoroughness. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the quantitative materiality of individual discrepancies fails to recognize the qualitative aspects of audit findings. This approach risks overlooking potential systemic weaknesses or policy breaches that could have significant implications for the university's admissions integrity, even if no single instance exceeds a predefined monetary threshold. Such a narrow focus would be a failure of professional judgment and a disregard for the broader responsibilities of an auditor in ensuring the reliability and fairness of university processes. Another incorrect approach that involves dismissing the findings due to their perceived insignificance without further investigation ignores the potential for aggregated risk. Even minor deviations, when occurring repeatedly or across different aspects of the admissions process, can signal underlying control deficiencies or a lack of adherence to established protocols. This approach demonstrates a lack of due diligence and professional skepticism, potentially leaving the university vulnerable to future issues. A further incorrect approach that involves immediately escalating the issue to senior management without an initial internal assessment and attempt to understand the root cause is also professionally unsound. While transparency is important, premature escalation without sufficient analysis can lead to unnecessary alarm and misallocation of resources. The professional decision-making process should involve a systematic evaluation of the findings, consultation with relevant university departments if necessary, and a clear articulation of the risks and potential implications before determining the appropriate course of action, including reporting. The professional reasoning process in such situations should involve 1. Understanding the scope and objectives of the audit. 2. Identifying and documenting all discrepancies. 3. Evaluating each discrepancy against relevant university policies and procedures. 4. Assessing the potential for aggregated risk or systemic issues. 5. Determining the qualitative impact of the findings. 6. Consulting with experienced colleagues or supervisors if uncertainty exists. 7. Formulating a clear and evidence-based report or recommendation. Question 3. The control framework reveals that student, facing a critical assignment deadline and expressing anxiety about their ability to meet the required academic standards, has approached the university's academic support office requesting help to make sure my work is good enough and doesn't get me into trouble. The student's phrasing suggests a potential concern about plagiarism or academic misconduct. What is the most appropriate course of action for the academic support office? Strictly adhering to the principles and regulations governing Aichi Bunkyo University's academic environment. Option A. Provide the student with detailed information on Aichi Bunkyo University's policies regarding academic integrity, plagiarism, and proper citation methods, along with resources for understanding these requirements, while emphasizing that the final work must be the student's own. Option B. Advise the student to seek assistance from external tutoring services that can guarantee a high-quality, plagiarism-free submission. Option C. Offer to review the student's assignment draft and provide extensive editing and content suggestions to ensure it meets the required standards, thereby alleviating the student's anxiety. Option D. Immediately report the student to the disciplinary committee for suspected academic misconduct, given their expressed concern about getting into trouble. The correct answer is A. Provide the student with detailed information on Aichi Bunkyo University's policies regarding academic integrity, plagiarism, and proper citation methods, along with resources for understanding these requirements, while emphasizing that the final work must be the student's own. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential conflict between a student's desire for academic advancement and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to achieve a certain outcome, coupled with the student's perceived need for external assistance, requires careful judgment to uphold ethical standards. The correct approach involves the university's academic affairs office providing clear, factual information about the university's policies on academic misconduct and the consequences of plagiarism. This approach is ethically justified by the university's responsibility to maintain academic standards and ensure a fair learning environment for all students. It aligns with the principles of honesty and integrity fundamental to higher education. Specifically, Aichi Bunkyo University's regulations on academic integrity, which are designed to prevent and address plagiarism, would guide this response. The office must act impartially, offering resources for understanding proper citation and academic honesty without condoning or facilitating any form of misconduct. An incorrect approach would be to offer the student direct assistance in completing the assignment, such as providing pre-written content or extensively editing their work beyond general guidance. This fails to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity by circumventing the student's own learning process and potentially engaging in academic dishonesty. It violates the spirit and letter of Aichi Bunkyo University's academic misconduct policies, which prohibit aiding or abetting plagiarism. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request or dismiss their concerns without providing any guidance. This demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility and fails to address a potential breach of academic integrity proactively. It neglects the university's duty to educate students on academic standards and to provide a supportive environment for ethical academic conduct. A further incorrect approach would be to immediately assume the student is attempting to plagiarize and to impose disciplinary measures without investigation or offering educational resources. While vigilance against academic misconduct is crucial, an immediate punitive response without due process or an opportunity for the student to understand and correct their behavior is ethically unsound and contrary to a constructive educational approach. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves 1. Understanding the university's specific policies and regulations regarding academic integrity and student conduct. 2. Assessing the student's request in light of these policies, identifying potential ethical concerns. 3. Prioritizing educational and preventative measures over immediate punitive actions, where appropriate. 4. Communicating clearly and factually with the student, outlining expectations and available resources. 5. Maintaining impartiality and confidentiality throughout the process. 6. Documenting all interactions and decisions. Question 4. The assessment process reveals that an applicant has submitted an essay that extensively uses information and arguments from several academic articles. While the applicant has attempted to rephrase most of the content, they have not included any footnotes or a bibliography, believing that rephrasing is sufficient to demonstrate original thought. Considering the academic integrity guidelines of Aichi Bunkyo University, which of the following actions best reflects the appropriate response to this situation? Option A. The applicant's work is rejected outright without any further communication or opportunity for explanation. Option B. The applicant's work is flagged for potential academic misconduct due to the lack of proper attribution, requiring further investigation and potential educational intervention. Option C. The applicant's work is considered original as they have rephrased the content, and no further action is required. Option D. The applicant's work is accepted as is, with a minor note suggesting they improve their citation in future assignments. The correct answer is C. The applicant's work is considered original as they have rephrased the content, and no further action is required. Explanation. The assessment process reveals a common challenge for university applicants: understanding the nuances of academic integrity and its implications. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires discerning between legitimate academic inquiry and plagiarism, a critical ethical and regulatory boundary. Misinterpreting these boundaries can lead to severe academic penalties, undermining the applicant's future educational prospects. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between using sources for understanding and presenting them as one's own original work. The correct approach involves a thorough understanding of Aichi Bunkyo University's academic integrity policies, which are designed to foster original thought and prevent academic misconduct. This approach prioritizes citing all sources accurately and comprehensively, ensuring that any borrowed ideas or information are properly attributed. This aligns with the university's commitment to upholding academic honesty and the principles of scholarly research, as stipulated in its student handbook and academic regulations. An incorrect approach that involves paraphrasing without attribution fails to acknowledge the original authors and misrepresents the applicant's own contribution. This constitutes plagiarism, a direct violation of academic integrity policies. Another incorrect approach, which involves copying text verbatim without quotation marks or citation, is also a clear instance of plagiarism and demonstrates a lack of understanding of proper academic practice. Lastly, an approach that relies solely on summarizing without referencing the original source, even if the words are different, can still be considered academic dishonesty if the core ideas are presented as original without acknowledgement. All these incorrect approaches violate the fundamental ethical principles of academic work and the specific regulations of Aichi Bunkyo University concerning academic misconduct. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes proactive learning and adherence to established guidelines. This involves thoroughly reviewing the university's academic integrity policies, seeking clarification from academic advisors when in doubt, and practicing diligent citation habits. When encountering information from external sources, the process should always involve asking, "Have I clearly indicated where this information or idea originated? And is my work a genuine reflection of my own understanding and analysis, supported by proper attribution?" Question 5. Compliance review shows that an applicant for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam has inadvertently used significant portions of text from an online article in their personal essay without proper citation. The applicant is unaware of the extent of the overlap. What is the most ethically sound and procedurally correct course of action for the applicant to take? Option A. Subtly rephrase the overlapping sections to avoid direct detection without acknowledging the original source. Option B. Withdraw the application without informing the university of the reason. Option C. Immediately contact the Aichi Bunkyo University admissions office to explain the situation, provide the original source, and request guidance on how to proceed. Option D. Submit the essay as is, hoping the overlap will not be detected. The correct answer is C. Immediately contact the Aichi Bunkyo University admissions office to explain the situation, provide the original source, and request guidance on how to proceed. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their best work and the university's academic integrity policies. The pressure to succeed in entrance exams can lead to ethically questionable decisions. Careful judgment is required to uphold academic standards while also understanding the pressures faced by applicants. The correct approach involves a direct and honest communication with the university's admissions office regarding the potential for plagiarism. This demonstrates a commitment to academic integrity and allows the university to make an informed decision based on accurate information. This aligns with the principles of honesty and transparency expected of all individuals interacting with academic institutions, and specifically with the spirit of Aichi Bunkyo University's entrance examination regulations, which implicitly value original work and truthful representation. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the potential plagiarism and submit the essay as is. This fails to uphold the principle of academic honesty and directly violates the university's expectations of original work. Submitting plagiarized material, even if unintentional, constitutes academic misconduct. Another incorrect approach would be to subtly alter the plagiarized sections to avoid detection without acknowledging the original source. This is a form of deception and further undermines academic integrity. It is a violation of trust and misrepresents the applicant's true abilities and effort. Finally, an incorrect approach would be to withdraw the application without explanation. While this avoids direct confrontation, it does not address the underlying issue of potential plagiarism and misses an opportunity to learn from the situation and demonstrate a commitment to ethical conduct. It also deprives the university of the opportunity to assess the applicant fairly based on their own merits. The professional decision-making process in such a situation should involve 1. Recognizing the ethical dilemma. 2. Consulting relevant university policies on academic integrity and plagiarism. 3. Prioritizing honesty and transparency. 4. Seeking guidance from appropriate university officials if unsure. 5. Acting in a manner that upholds the integrity of the application process. Question 6. Upon reviewing the preliminary information packet for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance examination, an applicant notices a section detailing required supporting documents that seems to contradict a brief mention of alternative submission methods on the university's official website. The applicant is unsure which information takes precedence and how to proceed with gathering their documents. Option A. Proceed with gathering documents based on the detailed list in the information packet, assuming it is the most up-to-date and authoritative source. Option B. Contact the Aichi Bunkyo University admissions office directly to seek clarification on the discrepancy between the information packet and the website. Option C. Interpret the website's mention of alternative methods as a more flexible option and gather documents accordingly without further inquiry. Option D. Rely on advice from current students or alumni found on online forums to understand the correct procedure. The correct answer is A. Proceed with gathering documents based on the detailed list in the information packet, assuming it is the most up-to-date and authoritative source. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an applicant to demonstrate not only an understanding of the Aichi Bunkyo University's entrance examination process, but also the ability to critically evaluate information presented in a way that aligns with academic integrity and the university's stated values. The challenge lies in discerning the most appropriate response when faced with potentially misleading or incomplete information, a situation common in academic and professional settings. Careful judgment is required to avoid misinterpreting the intent or implications of the information provided. The correct approach involves recognizing that the university's entrance examination is a formal process designed to assess an applicant's suitability based on merit and adherence to established procedures. Therefore, seeking clarification directly from the university's admissions office is the most appropriate action. This approach upholds academic integrity by ensuring the applicant is working with accurate information and demonstrates respect for the university's established communication channels and administrative processes. It aligns with the ethical principle of honesty and transparency in all dealings with educational institutions. An incorrect approach would be to assume the information provided is complete and proceed without verification. This could lead to misunderstandings or errors in the application, potentially jeopardizing the applicant's chances. Another incorrect approach would be to rely on informal or unofficial sources for clarification, such as student forums or social media. This risks receiving inaccurate or biased information, which could lead to further missteps and demonstrate a lack of diligence and respect for the formal application process. Finally, attempting to interpret ambiguous information in a way that might be advantageous without seeking clarification is unethical and undermines the principle of fair assessment. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes accuracy, integrity, and adherence to established procedures. When faced with ambiguity or uncertainty regarding an official process, the first step should always be to consult the official guidelines or contact the relevant authority directly. This ensures that decisions are based on factual information and ethical considerations, fostering trust and demonstrating professionalism. Question 7. Cost-benefit analysis shows that participating in a prestigious debate club offers significant opportunities for developing critical thinking and public speaking skills, which are valuable for future academic and professional life. However, this club demands a substantial time commitment, potentially impacting dedicated study hours for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance examination. Considering the primary objective of gaining admission to Aichi Bunkyo University, which approach best aligns with maximizing the chances of success? Option A. Divide study time equally between intensive debate club preparation and entrance exam revision, aiming for moderate success in both. Option B. Completely forego the debate club to focus exclusively on entrance exam preparation, viewing any extracurricular activity as a distraction. Option C. Dedicate the majority of study time to the core subjects and syllabus outlined for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam, strategically allocating any remaining time for the debate club if it does not compromise essential exam preparation. Option D. Fully commit to the debate club, believing that the developed skills will indirectly impress the admissions committee and compensate for any potential shortfall in exam performance. The correct answer is C. Dedicate the majority of study time to the core subjects and syllabus outlined for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam, strategically allocating any remaining time for the debate club if it does not compromise essential exam preparation. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge for a prospective student applying to Aichi Bunkyo University. The student has identified a potential benefit in a specific extracurricular activity that aligns with their academic interests, but this activity requires a significant time commitment. The core challenge lies in balancing the perceived value of this activity against the demands of their academic preparation for the entrance exam, which is the primary determinant of admission. The university's entrance exam framework, as implied by the context of an entrance exam question, prioritizes academic readiness. Therefore, the student must make a judgment call that optimizes their chances of success in the exam while still considering personal development. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves prioritizing the core academic preparation for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam. This means dedicating the majority of study time to subjects and topics explicitly covered in the exam syllabus. The justification for this approach is rooted in the fundamental purpose of an entrance exam: to assess a candidate's suitability and preparedness for university-level study based on established academic criteria. While extracurricular activities can be beneficial, they are secondary to demonstrating academic competence in the context of an entrance examination. The university's admission process is designed to evaluate academic merit, and therefore, any decision that detracts from this primary goal would be professionally unsound from an admissions perspective. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that heavily emphasizes the extracurricular activity at the expense of core academic preparation for the entrance exam is incorrect. This fails to acknowledge the primary objective of the entrance exam and the university's admission criteria. It represents a misallocation of resources, time, and effort that could otherwise be directed towards strengthening performance on the exam. Ethically, it is a disservice to the student's goal of gaining admission if it leads to a weaker exam performance. Another incorrect approach would be to completely disregard the extracurricular activity without any consideration. While academic preparation is paramount, a balanced approach that strategically incorporates beneficial activities without compromising exam readiness can be advantageous. Completely ignoring potentially relevant experiences might lead to a missed opportunity for holistic development, though in the context of an entrance exam, this is a lesser failure than neglecting core studies. A third incorrect approach might involve attempting to do both activities equally, leading to a superficial engagement with both academic preparation and the extracurricular. This diffusion of effort would likely result in suboptimal performance in both areas, failing to excel in the critical entrance exam, and not gaining significant depth from the extracurricular activity. This demonstrates a lack of strategic planning and prioritization. Professional reasoning. Professionals advising prospective students or students themselves making these decisions should employ a framework that prioritizes the stated goals and requirements of the institution. In this case, the goal is admission to Aichi Bunkyo University via its entrance exam. The framework involves 1. Identifying the primary objective, passing the entrance exam. 2. Understanding the evaluation criteria, exam syllabus and format. 3. Assessing the resource allocation, time and effort required for the primary objective. 4. Evaluating any secondary activities for their potential impact, positive or negative, on the primary objective. 5. Making decisions that maximize the likelihood of achieving the primary objective, while strategically incorporating secondary activities, only if they do not detract from or, ideally, enhance the primary goal. Question 8. Process analysis reveals that an international applicant for Aichi Bunkyo University has submitted academic transcripts from a high school in a country where their diploma is officially recognized by the National Ministry of Education. However, the university's admission guidelines for international students contain a section on academic achievement that requires a certain level of academic rigor and specific subject matter coverage, which is not explicitly detailed for all foreign qualifications. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee to determine the applicant's eligibility? Option A. Accept the applicant if a general international credential evaluation service has deemed their diploma to be equivalent to a Japanese high school diploma. Option B. Directly admit the applicant based on the official recognition of their diploma by their home country's Ministry of Education. Option C. Consult Aichi Bunkyo University's admissions office or the relevant academic department for clarification on how to assess the applicant's foreign academic credentials against the university's specific criteria. Option D. Reject the applicant due to the lack of explicit confirmation that their specific curriculum meets Aichi Bunkyo University's detailed academic achievement requirements. The correct answer is B. Directly admit the applicant based on the official recognition of their diploma by their home country's Ministry of Education. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in navigating the specific admission regulations of Aichi Bunkyo University, particularly concerning the interpretation and application of the academic achievement requirement for international applicants. The difficulty lies in determining whether a foreign qualification, while recognized by a national body, fully aligns with the university's internal standards for assessing readiness for higher education in Japan. Misinterpreting these requirements could lead to either the rejection of a qualified candidate or the admission of an underprepared one, both of which have significant implications for the university's academic integrity and international recruitment goals. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of Aichi Bunkyo University's official admission guidelines for international students, specifically focusing on the criteria for evaluating foreign academic credentials. This includes understanding any explicit equivalency standards or specific subject matter prerequisites that the university may have. If the guidelines are ambiguous regarding the applicant's specific qualification, the appropriate action is to consult the university's admissions office or the relevant academic department for clarification. This ensures that the decision is based on the university's stated policies and internal standards, upholding regulatory compliance and fair assessment. Incorrect approach is analysis. An approach that relies solely on the general recognition of the applicant's foreign high school diploma by their home country's Ministry of Education, without verifying its alignment with Aichi Bunkyo University's specific requirements, is procedurally flawed. This bypasses the university's internal assessment framework and could lead to admitting students who do not meet the university's academic expectations, violating the spirit of the admission regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to assume that any qualification deemed equivalent by a general international credential evaluation service is automatically acceptable to Aichi Bunkyo University. While these services provide valuable information, universities often have their own specific criteria for academic equivalency that may differ. Proceeding without confirming this internal alignment risks noncompliance with the university's unique admission standards. Finally, making a decision based on anecdotal evidence or the admission of similar candidates in previous years, without consulting the current official guidelines or seeking clarification, is unprofessional and potentially discriminatory. Admission decisions must be based on objective criteria outlined in the university's regulations, not on informal practices or past precedents that may no longer be valid. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions must adopt a systematic and policy-driven approach. This involves 1. Identifying the relevant regulatory framework, Aichi Bunkyo University's admission guidelines. 2. Carefully interpreting the specific requirements related to the applicant's situation, foreign academic credentials. 3. Seeking clarification from authoritative sources within the university when ambiguity exists. 4. Making decisions that are demonstrably consistent with the stated policies and ethical principles of fair assessment and academic integrity. Question 9. Examination of the data shows that a student preparing a research paper for Aichi Bunkyo University has gathered information from various academic journals, books, and online resources. The student has paraphrased extensively and incorporated some direct quotes, but has only included a limited number of citations, believing that extensive paraphrasing negates the need for detailed source attribution, which approach best upholds the academic integrity standards expected by Aichi Bunkyo University. Option A. Thoroughly cite all sources, including paraphrased material and direct quotes, using the university's specified citation style to acknowledge all borrowed ideas and information. Option B. Rely primarily on personal notes taken during research, with only occasional references to original sources for verification, and omit citations for information recalled from notes. Option C. Use direct quotes for key phrases and ideas, but omit citations for paraphrased sections, arguing that the student's own wording makes it original content. Option D. Paraphrase all borrowed information extensively and include only a few direct quotes with minimal citations, assuming this demonstrates sufficient original work. Correct answer is A. Thoroughly cite all sources, including paraphrased material and direct quotes, using the university's specified citation style to acknowledge all borrowed ideas and information. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to academic integrity and the ethical responsibilities of a university student. The challenge lies in balancing the desire to present well-researched work with the absolute requirement to adhere to academic honesty principles, specifically regarding proper attribution of sources. Aichi Bunkyo University, like any academic institution, has established guidelines and expectations for academic conduct, which are paramount in maintaining the credibility of its educational programs and the qualifications it confers. The correct approach involves meticulously citing all sources used in the research paper, ensuring that any ideas, data, or text borrowed from external materials are clearly attributed to their original authors. This aligns with the fundamental principles of academic integrity, which are implicitly or explicitly governed by the university's academic regulations and ethical codes. Proper citation prevents plagiarism, acknowledges the intellectual contributions of others, and allows readers to verify the information presented. This approach is ethically sound and legally defensible, as it respects intellectual property rights and upholds the standards of scholarly work expected by Aichi Bunkyo University. An incorrect approach of paraphrasing without citation, while attempting to avoid direct quotation, still constitutes plagiarism. This is because the underlying ideas and structure of the original work are being presented as one's own without acknowledgement. This violates academic honesty policies and can lead to severe penalties, including failing the assignment or even expulsion. Another incorrect approach of using only a few direct quotes with minimal citation is also problematic. While it acknowledges some borrowing, it fails to provide comprehensive attribution for the bulk of the borrowed material, thereby misrepresenting the extent of original thought and research. This still falls short of the expected standard of academic integrity and can be considered a form of academic dishonesty. Finally, relying heavily on personal notes without cross-referencing original sources for verification and citation is a risky strategy. While personal notes might capture the essence of information, they can also lead to unintentional misrepresentation or omission of crucial details that require proper attribution, thus increasing the likelihood of academic misconduct. The professional decision-making process in such situations should involve a proactive understanding of Aichi Bunkyo University's academic integrity policies. For commencing any research, students should familiarize themselves with the university's guidelines on plagiarism, citation styles, and academic honesty. During the research and writing process, a diligent approach to note-taking, including immediate recording of source details for every piece of information gathered, is crucial. When in doubt about whether something needs to be cited, it is always safer to err on the side of caution and provide attribution. Post-writing, a thorough review of the paper, specifically for citation accuracy and completeness, is a vital step before submission. Question 10. Assessment of the appropriate response by an Aichi Bunkyo University admissions officer when a prospective student's parent inquires about specific topics likely to be emphasized in the upcoming entrance examination, beyond what is detailed in the official examination syllabus. Option A. Advise the parent that all information regarding the examination content is available in the official syllabus and direct them to the university's admissions website for further details. Option B. Suggest that the student should prioritize memorization of specific textbook chapters that the admissions officer believes are most relevant to the exam. Option C. Provide a list of specific subtopics that are considered high yield based on the admissions officer's experience, even if not explicitly highlighted in the official syllabus. Option D. Offer personal insights based on previous year's examination trends, and suggest focusing study efforts on areas that have historically appeared more frequently. Correct answer is A. Advise the parent that all information regarding the examination content is available in the official syllabus and direct them to the university's admissions website for further details. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in ensuring that prospective students are provided with accurate and unbiased information regarding Aichi Bunkyo University's entrance examination process. The university has a responsibility to maintain the integrity of its admissions and to prevent any actions that could be perceived as unfair or misleading. The core challenge lies in balancing the desire to assist applicants with the strict adherence to established examination regulations and ethical guidelines. Misinformation or undue influence could compromise the fairness of the examination and damage the university's reputation. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves strictly adhering to the official Aichi Bunkyo University entrance examination regulations and guidelines. This means providing only information that is publicly available and officially sanctioned. When a student or guardian asks for clarification or guidance beyond what is explicitly stated in the official materials, the appropriate response is to direct them to the official examination handbook, university's admissions website, or the designated admissions office. This ensures that all applicants receive the same, accurate information, thereby upholding the principle of equal opportunity and the integrity of the examination process. This aligns with the university's commitment to fair and transparent admissions as stipulated in its internal regulations concerning examination conduct and information dissemination. Incorrect approaches analysis. Providing speculative advice on potential exam question topics or offering personal interpretations of past exam trends constitutes an ethical and regulatory failure. This is because such actions go beyond the scope of officially sanctioned information and could inadvertently create an unfair advantage for certain applicants. It introduces an element of subjectivity and potential bias, which is contrary to the principles of a standardized examination. Furthermore, offering to help by providing unofficial study materials or tips could be construed as facilitating academic dishonesty or creating a perception of impropriety, violating the university's code of conduct regarding examination fairness. Suggesting that certain areas are more important than others without official backing is also problematic, as it can lead applicants to neglect other crucial aspects of the syllabus, potentially disadvantaging them if the actual examination covers a broader range of topics. Professional reasoning. Professionals involved in university admissions and examination administration must prioritize transparency, fairness, and adherence to established regulations. When faced with inquiries that extend beyond official guidelines, the decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the nature of the inquiry. Is it a request for factual information, clarification of existing rules, or guidance on exam content/strategy? 2. Consulting official documentation. Always refer to the official Aichi Bunkyo University entrance examination regulations, handbooks, and admissions policies. 3. Responding within boundaries. Provide information that is explicitly stated or directly inferable from official sources. 4. Redirecting when necessary. If an inquiry seeks information or advice not covered by official materials, politely and professionally direct the inquirer to the appropriate official channels, e.g., admissions office, official website, published handbooks. 5. Maintaining neutrality. Avoid personal opinions, speculation, or any form of influence that could be perceived as preferential treatment. Question 11. Which approach would be most appropriate for an admissions committee member at Aichi Bunkyo University when reviewing applications for the upcoming academic year, given the university's established entrance examination process? Option A. Consider applicants with strong personal recommendations from influential alumni, even if their entrance examination scores are slightly below the typical threshold. Option B. Allow for flexible interpretation of the entrance examination scoring to accommodate candidates who show exceptional promise in extracurricular activities, regardless of their core academic assessment. Option C. Prioritize candidates who demonstrate strong academic performance on the entrance examination and meet all other official admission requirements. Option D. Focus on candidates whose families have a history of significant financial contribution to the university, as this indicates a strong commitment to the institution's future. The correct answer is C. Prioritize candidates who demonstrate strong academic performance on the entrance examination and meet all other official admission requirements. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in the context of university admissions, specifically concerning the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam. The core difficulty lies in balancing the university's stated commitment to academic merit with the potential for external pressures or perceived advantages that might influence the selection process. Ensuring fairness, transparency, and adherence to the university's established admission criteria are paramount. The university's regulatory framework, as implied by its entrance exam, prioritizes objective assessment of candidates' academic capabilities and potential to succeed within its programs. The correct approach involves a rigorous and impartial evaluation of all applicants based solely on the established entrance examination criteria and any other officially sanctioned academic prerequisites. This aligns with the fundamental principles of academic integrity and fair competition, which are implicitly mandated by the existence of a structured entrance examination process. The Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam framework, by its nature, aims to create a level playing field where admission is determined by demonstrated academic aptitude, not by external factors or subjective influences. Adhering strictly to these established academic benchmarks ensures that the university selects students who are best prepared for its curriculum, upholding the credibility and reputation of the institution. An approach that prioritizes personal connections or perceived potential outside of the defined examination metrics would be ethically unsound and likely violate the spirit, if not the letter, of the university's admission regulations. Such an approach undermines the principle of meritocracy, creating an unfair advantage for some candidates and disadvantaging others who have diligently prepared for the standardized assessment. Furthermore, an approach that focuses on the financial capacity of the applicant's family, rather than their academic qualifications, directly contravenes the purpose of an academic entrance examination and could lead to the admission of students who are not academically prepared, potentially impacting the overall academic standards of the university. Finally, an approach that seeks to interpret or bend the examination rules to accommodate specific candidates, even with the intention of broadening diversity, risks compromising the integrity of the admission process and setting a precedent for future deviations from established standards. Professionals involved in university admissions must adopt a decision-making process that is grounded in the established regulatory framework of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam. This involves a clear understanding of the admission criteria, a commitment to objective evaluation, and a robust process for handling any potential ambiguities or challenges to the assessment. When faced with situations that might tempt deviation from these principles, professionals should always refer back to the core purpose of the entrance examination, to identify academically capable individuals who will thrive within the university's academic environment. Any decision must be defensible based on the established rules and ethical considerations of academic admissions. Question 12. Implementation of a policy for handling requests for examination accommodations by applicants to the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam requires careful consideration of the university's specific regulatory framework. An applicant submits a request for an extended examination time due to a diagnosed learning difference. Which of the following represents the most appropriate course of action, strictly adhering to the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations? Option A. Deny the request outright, as the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations do not explicitly mention provisions for extended time accommodations. Option B. Grant the extended examination time immediately upon receiving the medical documentation, as per general principles of inclusivity. Option C. Propose a modified examination format for this applicant that assesses similar competencies but uses different question types. Option D. Review the applicant's request in conjunction with the specific clauses and guidelines within the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations pertaining to examination accommodations and their approval criteria. The correct answer is B. Grant the extended examination time immediately upon receiving the medical documentation, as per general principles of inclusivity. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge in academic admissions, specifically concerning the integrity of the entrance examination process at Aichi Bunkyo University. The challenge lies in balancing the university's commitment to fair and equitable assessment with the need to accommodate diverse applicant backgrounds and potential learning differences, while strictly adhering to the established examination regulations. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any accommodations do not compromise the validity or fairness of the examination for all candidates. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's request against the explicit provisions and guidelines of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations. This means assessing whether the requested accommodation is permissible under the existing framework, whether it provides an unfair advantage, and whether it aligns with the university's stated principles of equal opportunity and academic merit. The regulatory justification for this approach is rooted in the principle of adherence to established rules and procedures, ensuring that all applicants are assessed under the same, clearly defined conditions. Ethically, this upholds fairness and transparency in the admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to grant the accommodation without a proper review, simply to be accommodating. This fails to uphold the integrity of the examination process and could lead to accusations of preferential treatment, violating the principle of equal assessment. Another incorrect approach would be to summarily deny the request without considering the specific circumstances or the university's own policies on reasonable adjustments, which could be discriminatory and ethically unsound. A third incorrect approach would be to modify the examination content itself to suit the applicant, as this fundamentally alters the assessment criteria and undermines the comparability of results across all candidates, directly contravening the purpose of standardized testing. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes understanding the specific regulations governing the examination, evaluating the applicant's request against these regulations, considering any relevant ethical guidelines on fairness and non-discrimination, and documenting the decision-making process thoroughly. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are justifiable, transparent, and aligned with both legal and ethical standards. Question 13. Risk assessment procedures indicate a potential for plagiarism in an applicant's submitted essay for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance examination. The admissions committee has received an anonymous tip suggesting that parts of the essay may not be original work. What is the most appropriate course of action for the admissions committee to take? Option A. Immediately disqualify the applicant from the admissions process based on the anonymous tip. Option B. Proceed with the application review without addressing the plagiarism concern to avoid potential disputes. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's essay using plagiarism detection software, and if necessary, initiate a formal investigation according to university policy. Option D. Contact the applicant directly for an informal discussion about the essay's originality before any formal steps are taken. The correct answer is C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's essay using plagiarism detection software, and if necessary, initiate a formal investigation according to university policy. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing academic integrity with the university's commitment to fostering a supportive learning environment. The risk assessment highlights a potential for academic misconduct, which, if unaddressed, could undermine the credibility of Aichi Bunkyo University's degrees and the fairness of its admissions process. The challenge lies in identifying and responding to such risks without unduly penalizing students or creating an overly punitive atmosphere. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based review of the applicant's submission. This aligns with Aichi Bunkyo University's commitment to fair and transparent admission. Specifically, it requires a thorough examination of the submitted essay for any signs of plagiarism or unoriginal content, which would be a direct violation of academic integrity policies. If evidence of misconduct is found, the university must follow its established disciplinary procedures, which typically involve a formal investigation and a decision based on the findings, ensuring due process for the applicant. This approach upholds the university's standards and ensures that admissions are granted based on genuine merit. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to immediately reject the application based on a suspicion without further investigation. This fails to provide the applicant with due process and could lead to an unfair exclusion if the suspicion is unfounded. It bypasses the university's established procedures for handling potential academic misconduct. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the potential risk and proceed with the application as if no concerns were raised. This is a failure to uphold the university's responsibility to maintain academic standards and could result in admitting a student who has engaged in academic dishonesty, thereby compromising the integrity of the admissions process and the academic community. A third incorrect approach is to confront the applicant informally without a structured process. This lacks the formality and documentation required for a fair investigation and decision-making process. It also risks miscommunication and an inability to reach a conclusive and defensible outcome, potentially leading to disputes and damage to the university's reputation. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university admissions should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes fairness, due process, and adherence to institutional policies. This involves 1. Identifying potential risks through initial assessment. 2. Gathering evidence to substantiate or refute these risks. 3. Following established procedures for investigation and decision-making. 4. Ensuring transparency and fairness throughout the process. 5. Documenting all steps taken and decisions made. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are objective, defensible, and aligned with the university's values and regulatory obligations. Question 14. During the evaluation of an applicant's submitted essay for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam, the applicant is unsure about the precise formatting requirements for citing external sources, as the provided guidelines are somewhat ambiguous regarding the inclusion of specific publication details. What is the most appropriate course of action for the applicant to ensure compliance with the university's academic integrity standards? Option A. The applicant should omit any citations that are unclear in their formatting to avoid potential errors. Option B. The applicant should consult online forums and unofficial guides for advice on how to cite sources for this specific university's entrance exam. Option C. The applicant should contact the Aichi Bunkyo University admissions office to request clarification on the exact citation formatting requirements for the entrance exam essay. Option D. The applicant should proceed with submitting the essay using a commonly accepted citation style, assuming it will be acceptable. The correct answer is C. The applicant should contact the Aichi Bunkyo University admissions office to request clarification on the exact citation formatting requirements for the entrance exam essay. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their work accurately and the university's strict academic integrity policies. The pressure to succeed in a university entrance exam can lead to ethically compromised decisions. Careful judgment is required to navigate these competing pressures while upholding academic standards. The correct approach involves a student proactively seeking clarification and guidance from the university's admissions office regarding the appropriate citation methods for their submitted essay. This demonstrates a commitment to academic honesty and adherence to the Aichi Bunkyo University's specific guidelines for entrance examinations. By seeking official clarification, the student ensures their work meets the university's standards and avoids potential accusations of plagiarism or academic misconduct. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principle of honesty in academic pursuits and the regulatory requirement to comply with university-specific examination procedures. An incorrect approach of submitting the essay without verifying citation standards risks violating the university's academic integrity policy. This failure to adhere to established guidelines constitutes a breach of academic ethics and potentially the examination regulations. Another incorrect approach of assuming standard citation practices are sufficient without confirmation is also professionally unacceptable. University entrance exams often have unique requirements, and a failure to verify these specific instructions can lead to an invalid submission or disciplinary action. This demonstrates a lack of diligence and respect for the examination process. Finally, an incorrect approach of attempting to guess or approximate the correct citation method without explicit guidance is a direct violation of the principle of academic honesty. This can be interpreted as an attempt to circumvent the rules or present work that is not fully compliant, thereby undermining the integrity of the examination. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the specific requirements and guidelines related to the task, in this case, the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam essay submission. 2. Recognizing any ambiguity or potential for misinterpretation in these guidelines. 3. Proactively seeking clarification from the authoritative source, the university admissions office. 4. Documenting the clarification received if possible for future reference. 5. Acting in accordance with the confirmed guidelines. Question 15. The evaluation methodology shows that the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam is designed to assess candidates' understanding of its specific regulatory framework. Which of the following question types would best adhere to the principle of absolute priority for this exam's jurisdiction? Option A. A question asking candidates to identify the key differences between the admission policies of Aichi Bunkyo University and other national universities in Japan. Option B. A question requiring candidates to explain the historical development of university entrance examinations in Japan. Option C. A question that prompts candidates to propose improvements to the general university admission process in Japan based on their understanding of educational theory. Option D. A question that asks candidates to describe a specific requirement or prohibition outlined in the official Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations. The correct answer is A. A question asking candidates to identify the key differences between the admission policies of Aichi Bunkyo University and other national universities in Japan. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a scenario where a university entrance exam is being designed. The challenge lies in ensuring that the questions accurately assess a candidate's understanding of the specific regulatory framework for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam, without introducing ambiguity or requiring knowledge outside of that defined scope. This requires a deep understanding of the exam's own governing principles and a commitment to adhering strictly to them. The correct approach involves crafting a question that directly tests comprehension of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam's regulatory framework, focusing on its unique requirements and prohibitions. This ensures that candidates are evaluated on their ability to apply the specific rules relevant to their admission, aligning with the exam's stated purpose. The regulatory justification is that the exam itself is a regulated process, and questions must reflect the governing regulations to be valid and fair. Ethical considerations demand that candidates are tested on what is explicitly stated as relevant, preventing unfair advantage or disadvantage. An incorrect approach would be to formulate a question that relies on general knowledge of university entrance exams in Japan, or on external academic standards not explicitly incorporated into the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exams framework. This fails to meet the jurisdictional requirement of focusing only on the specified exams regulations. Another incorrect approach would be to create a question that requires interpretation beyond the explicit text of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exams regulations, introducing subjective elements that are not part of a standardized, objective assessment. This violates the principle of clear and unambiguous evaluation. A further incorrect approach would be to include questions that touch upon the broader Japanese education system, without a direct link to the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam-specific rules. thereby exceeding the defined scope of the examination's regulatory jurisdiction. The professional decision-making process for similar situations involves a rigorous review of the exam's governing documents. Each question must be cross-referenced against these documents to ensure it is directly relevant, unambiguous, and tests only the prescribed knowledge. If any doubt exists about the scope or clarity of a question, it should be revised or discarded to maintain the integrity and fairness of the examination process. Question 16. Performance analysis shows a slight decline in the average academic scores of admitted students over the past 2 admission cycles for Aichi Bunkyo University. The admissions committee is under pressure to maintain enrollment numbers. Considering the regulatory framework of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam, which approach should the committee prioritize when reviewing applications for the upcoming cycle to ensure both academic integrity and compliance? Option A. Focus on identifying candidates who demonstrate exceptional leadership qualities or unique talents, even if their academic scores are below the stated minimums, to enhance the diversity and vibrancy of the student body. Option B. Prioritize applicants from specific high schools that have historically sent a high number of successful students to the university, assuming a higher likelihood of preparedness based on past performance. Option C. Give significant weight to personal essays and recommendation letters, allowing for a more holistic evaluation that might compensate for slightly lower academic scores, as long as the applicant demonstrates strong potential for university life. Option D. Emphasize objective assessment of all submitted academic records and standardized test results, strictly adhering to the published admission criteria and weighting established by the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations. Correct answer is D. Emphasize objective assessment of all submitted academic records and standardized test results, strictly adhering to the published admission criteria and weighting established by the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's academic mission and the need for robust compliance with entrance examination regulations. The pressure to admit a certain number of students, coupled with the potential for subjective interpretation of application materials, creates a complex ethical and regulatory landscape. Careful judgment is required to ensure fairness, integrity, and adherence to the established examination framework. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective review of all application materials against the stated criteria of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations. This means prioritizing verifiable academic achievements, standardized test scores if applicable, and documented extracurricular activities that directly align with the university's admission policies. The regulatory justification lies in upholding the principle of equal opportunity and merit-based selection, as mandated by the examination's governing framework. Ethically, this approach ensures transparency and prevents any perception of bias or favoritism, thereby safeguarding the reputation of the university and the integrity of the admission process. An incorrect approach that relies heavily on anecdotal evidence or personal recommendations without concrete supporting documentation fails to adhere to the objective standards set by the examination regulations. This introduces subjectivity and can lead to unfair advantages or disadvantages for applicants, violating the principle of equitable assessment. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes filling quotas over meeting established academic thresholds disregards the fundamental purpose of an entrance examination, which is to select qualified candidates based on merit. This can lead to the admission of underprepared students, potentially impacting academic standards and the university's overall performance. Furthermore, an approach that overlooks or downplays discrepancies in application materials, such as inconsistencies in reported grades or achievements, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a failure to uphold the integrity of the admission process, potentially leading to regulatory breaches. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam regulations and admission policies. This framework should emphasize objective evaluation criteria, thorough verification of all submitted information, and a commitment to fairness and transparency. When faced with ambiguous situations, seeking clarification from established university committees or regulatory bodies responsible for the entrance examination is crucial. The decision-making process should be documented meticulously to ensure accountability and provide a clear audit trail. Question 17. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of unusual login activity and document access by a student that deviates significantly from their typical behavior, raising concerns about potential academic misconduct. Option A. Confront the student directly with the raw data from the monitoring system and demand an immediate confession of any wrongdoing. Option B. Disregard the monitoring system's findings, assuming the activity is a technical anomaly or a misunderstanding, to avoid potential student complaints. Option C. Immediately suspend the student's access to university systems and impose a failing grade on their current coursework based on the monitoring system's alert. Option D. Initiate a formal investigation according to Aichi Bunkyo University's academic integrity policy, gathering all relevant data from the monitoring system and providing the student with an opportunity to explain the observed activity. The correct answer is D. Initiate a formal investigation according to Aichi Bunkyo University's academic integrity policy, gathering all relevant data from the monitoring system and providing the student with an opportunity to explain the observed activity. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the potential conflict between a student's academic performance and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fairness. The monitoring system's demonstration of unusual activity requires careful judgment to avoid both overreaction and underreaction, which could have significant consequences for the student and the university's reputation. The challenge lies in interpreting the data objectively and applying the university's established procedures fairly. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic and evidence-based investigation. This begins with a thorough review of the monitoring system's data to understand the nature and extent of the unusual activity. Following this, the university's established academic integrity policy and procedures must be consulted and strictly adhered to. This typically involves gathering further evidence, providing the student with an opportunity to respond to any allegations, and ensuring a fair and impartial hearing process. This approach is ethically sound and legally compliant with the principles of natural justice and due process, which are fundamental to educational institutions. It upholds the university's commitment to academic standards while protecting the rights of the student. Incorrect approaches analysis. Immediately assuming academic misconduct and imposing sanctions without a proper investigation is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach violates the principle of innocent until proven guilty and can lead to wrongful accusations and penalties, damaging the student's academic future and the university's credibility. It bypasses established procedures designed to ensure fairness. Ignoring the monitoring system's findings due to a desire to avoid conflict or potential student dissatisfaction is also a failure. This approach neglects the university's responsibility to maintain academic integrity and can create a precedent where such issues are overlooked, potentially encouraging further misconduct. It undermines the purpose of the monitoring system and the university's commitment to a fair academic environment. Relying solely on the monitoring system's output without considering contextual factors or allowing for student explanation is another failure. While the system provides data, it may not capture the full picture. A nuanced understanding requires considering all relevant information and providing the student with a voice, which is a core ethical and procedural requirement. Professional reasoning. Professionals in university settings should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes due process, fairness, and adherence to established policies. This framework involves 1. Objective data gathering and analysis. 2. Strict adherence to institutional regulations and policies. 3. Providing natural justice to all parties involved, including the opportunity to be heard. 4. Ensuring impartiality in decision-making. 5. Documenting all steps and decisions thoroughly. This systematic approach ensures that actions are justifiable, ethical, and legally sound, protecting both the institution and its students. Question 18. The efficiency study reveals that certain administrative processes related to student admissions and course registration could be streamlined. Considering the university's commitment to academic rigor and equitable access, which of the following actions best reflects a responsible approach to implementing these findings? Option A. Immediately implement automated systems for all admissions and registration tasks to maximize efficiency and reduce manual workload. Option B. Delegate the entire implementation process to an external consulting firm without direct university oversight to ensure rapid deployment. Option C. Prioritize the implementation of changes that offer the most significant cost savings, regardless of potential disruptions to current student support services. Option D. Conduct a detailed review of each proposed streamlining measure, assessing its potential impact on student experience, data integrity, and adherence to university admission policies and Japanese educational regulations before any implementation. The correct answer is A. Immediately implement automated systems for all admissions and registration tasks to maximize efficiency and reduce manual workload. Explanation. The efficiency study reveals potential areas for improvement in the university's administrative processes. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the pursuit of operational efficiency with the fundamental principles of academic integrity and fairness, which are paramount in an educational institution. Misinterpreting or misapplying the findings could lead to decisions that undermine the university's core mission or create unintended negative consequences for students and staff. Careful judgment is required to ensure that efficiency gains do not come at the expense of quality education or equitable treatment. The correct approach involves a thorough, nuanced interpretation of the efficiency study's findings, focusing on identifying specific, actionable improvements that align with Aichi Bunkyo University's established policies and ethical guidelines. This means critically evaluating whether proposed changes genuinely enhance operational effectiveness without compromising academic standards, student welfare, or the principles of fair assessment and resource allocation, as implicitly or explicitly guided by Japanese educational regulations and university statutes. It requires a proactive engagement with relevant stakeholders to understand the practical implications of any proposed changes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost reduction without considering the impact on educational quality would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to acknowledge the primary purpose of a university and could violate ethical obligations to provide a high-quality learning environment. Another incorrect approach that blindly implements recommendations without assessing their compatibility with existing university regulations or Japanese educational law risks creating procedural irregularities and could lead to unfair outcomes for students or staff, thereby contravening principles of good governance and due process. A third incorrect approach that prioritizes speed of implementation over thorough risk assessment and stakeholder consultation overlooks the importance of due diligence and could result in poorly conceived changes that are difficult to reverse and detrimental to the university's long-term interests. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a comprehensive understanding of the study's scope and limitations. This involves identifying potential risks and benefits associated with each recommendation, consulting relevant university policies and applicable Japanese educational guidelines, and engaging in open dialogue with affected departments and individuals. The ultimate decision should be guided by a commitment to upholding the university's mission, ensuring fairness, and adhering to all legal and ethical standards. Question 19. System analysis indicates a student has submitted a project that bears a striking resemblance to publicly available online content, raising concerns about potential academic misconduct. As an administrator at Aichi Bunkyo University, what is the most appropriate initial step to address this situation, strictly adhering to the university's internal academic integrity framework? Option A. Immediately inform the student that their work is considered plagiarized and will not be graded. Option B. Publicly announce that the university is investigating a potential plagiarism case to deter future incidents. Option C. Advise the student to withdraw from the course to avoid further disciplinary action. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of the student's submission against the university's academic integrity policies and relevant citation guidelines to identify specific instances of potential misconduct. The correct answer is A. Immediately inform the student that their work is considered plagiarized and will not be graded. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire to present their work and the university's academic integrity policies. The core difficulty lies in balancing support for student learning and expression with the imperative to prevent plagiarism and uphold academic standards. Aichi Bunkyo University, like any academic institution, has a vested interest in ensuring the originality of submitted work and the fair assessment of student learning. The risk assessment here involves evaluating the potential for academic misconduct and its consequences. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective assessment of the student's work against the university's established academic integrity guidelines. This means carefully examining the submitted material for any signs of plagiarism, improper citation, or unauthorized collaboration. The university's regulations, which would typically be outlined in the student handbook or academic policy documents, are the primary reference point. This approach is correct because it adheres strictly to the established rules designed to maintain academic honesty and fairness, prioritizes due process for the student, while safeguarding the integrity of the academic environment. The university's commitment to academic integrity, as mandated by its own internal regulations and broader educational principles, necessitates such a rigorous and evidence-based evaluation. Incorrect approaches analysis. An approach that immediately assumes misconduct without investigation is incorrect because it violates principles of fairness and due process. University regulations typically require a presumption of innocence until proven otherwise and mandate a formal investigation process. This approach risks unjustly penalizing a student and damaging the university's reputation for impartiality. An approach that prioritizes avoiding any potential conflict or negative publicity over upholding academic standards is also incorrect. While managing public perception is important, it should not supersede the fundamental responsibility to maintain academic integrity. Ignoring potential misconduct to avoid controversy is a dereliction of duty and undermines the educational mission. An approach that focuses solely on the student's intent without considering the objective evidence of academic dishonesty is flawed. While intent can be a factor in determining the severity of a penalty, the act of plagiarism or academic misconduct itself, regardless of intent, is a violation of university policy. The assessment must be based on the submitted work and adherence to citation rules. Professional reasoning. Professionals in academic settings should employ a structured decision-making process when faced with potential academic integrity issues. This process typically involves 1. Understanding and internalizing the university's specific academic integrity policies and procedures. 2. Gathering all relevant information and evidence objectively. 3. Conducting a fair and impartial assessment based on the evidence and policies. 4. Following established procedures for reporting, investigation, and adjudication. 5. Communicating clearly and transparently with all parties involved. This systematic approach ensures that decisions are grounded in policy, evidence, and ethical principles, thereby protecting both the student and the institution. Question 20. Cost-benefit analysis shows that implementing a new online proctoring system for the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam could significantly reduce physical examination site costs and potentially increase applicant reach. However, concerns have been raised about potential technical issues for applicants with limited internet access and the fairness of remote supervision compared to in-person invigilation. Which approach best assesses the overall impact of this proposed change, considering the unique regulatory framework of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam? Option A. Conduct a pilot study with a representative sample of applicants to gather data on technical feasibility, applicant experience, and perceived fairness, alongside a detailed analysis of potential cost savings and operational adjustments required for implementation, all within the context of Aichi Bunkyo University's established examination protocols. Option B. Implement the online proctoring system immediately to capture the cost savings, with a plan to address any applicant complaints or technical failures as they occur, without prior extensive testing or consultation. Option C. Prioritize the cost savings and increased applicant reach, assuming that any technical issues can be resolved on a case-by-case basis and that online proctoring is a universally accepted standard. Option D. Focus solely on the potential for increased applicant numbers, believing that broader access is the primary goal of any entrance examination, and that the university can adapt its support systems later if problems arise. The correct answer is C. Prioritize the cost savings and increased applicant reach, assuming that any technical issues can be resolved on a case-by-case basis and that online proctoring is a universally accepted standard. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the potential benefits of a new initiative against its costs, while strictly adhering to the specific regulatory framework of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam. The challenge lies in identifying the most appropriate method for evaluating the impact of a proposed change within the confines of this unique examination context, ensuring that any decision aligns with the university's established procedures and educational objectives. Careful judgment is required to avoid introducing biases or overlooking critical factors that are paramount to the integrity and fairness of the entrance examination. The correct approach involves a comprehensive assessment that considers not only quantifiable financial aspects, but also qualitative impacts on student experience, fairness, and the overall educational mission of Aichi Bunkyo University. This aligns with the principles of responsible governance and educational stewardship, which are implicitly embedded in the regulatory framework of any university entrance examination. Focus should be on ensuring that any proposed change enhances, or at least does not detract from, the quality and accessibility of the examination process as defined by the university's internal guidelines, and any overarching educational policies relevant to Japanese higher education admissions. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on immediate cost savings without considering the potential negative repercussions on the examination's validity or equity. This fails to meet the ethical obligation to provide a fair and robust assessment for all prospective students. Another incorrect approach would be to prioritize the perceived convenience of administrators over the fundamental rights and expectations of the applicants, potentially leading to a perception of unfairness or a reduction in the examination's effectiveness as a selection tool. A third incorrect approach might involve adopting a methodology that is not aligned with the established practices or the spirit of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam, thereby undermining its credibility and potentially violating its specific regulatory guidelines. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the Aichi Bunkyo University entrance exam's specific objectives and regulatory boundaries. This involves identifying all stakeholders and their potential interests, systematically evaluating the potential benefits and drawbacks of any proposed change across various dimensions: financial, educational, ethical, operational, and then selecting the option that best serves the long-term interests of the university and its applicants within the established legal and ethical framework.